Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, Welcome back to the Halls of Horror for our fourth installment. This week we will be going over McKamey Manor. I am joined by my friend and co-host, Jada. How are you doing today,
Hello.
Jada?
I'm good. How are you?
Fan-fucking-tastic.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Really interesting topic.
Oh yeah, and it got more interesting as you dug into it.
Oh,
Which isn't normally what I see with most things that we've picked, because we kind of already know what's going on.
right.
But this one, ooh, pretty
Bare
tasty.
layers.
Tasty! Yay! Hi, Remy. So, if you guys don't already know, McKamey Manor is a very controversial, quote-unquote, extreme haunt or extreme haunted house that's been a topic of controversy in the horror community for the last decade or so. It started in the, I think, late 1990s and early 2000s by a guy named Russ McKamey in his backyard as just a haunted house. And then he progressively got worse over time. Russ McKamey himself is extremely controversial, but we're not going to get a ton into him because that's just a rabbit hole that could have its own episode. What did you know about McKamey Manor before we went into the research for this, Jada?
So I had already watched a bunch of videos on McKamey Manor, particularly the two victims that we're covering today. I already knew a lot about their stories going into this before we'd even discussed McKamey Manor being a possibility of being a topic. It popped up from one of the horror tubers I watched, and I just kind of fell down a rabbit hole looking into it.
I was introduced to it through a video Primink posted, I think, the beginning of this year. And then I ended up finding some videos from Ready to Glare that went over some of this stuff. Whereas Primink was just going over really the history of it. Whereas the actual controversy was a little bit more explained in Ready to Glare's videos.
Yeah. I actually found out from the video I showed you.
What was that? You cut out.
I apologize. I found out from the video Loie Lane posted, going over our two victims, Gabby and Marissa, in their experiences with McKamey Manor.
Interesting. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting video and kind of heartbreaking, but we do have some clips that are from that or were sourced in that to kind of back up the point of these people, or these two poor freaking girls. God. But like I said, this initially started out as just a normal haunted house, like the ones you see every year at Halloween, in some guy's backyard. And all they wanted was dog food to just go through it, which is a fee they still have. But now, as it's changed, it requires a lot more. It's not just that you're going into the ooky spooky and coming out laughing because you got scared. It's a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
We've heard different times of how long it could go, but on the website it says it's 10 plus hour extreme horror experience. And what's kind of big old red flag, is that it requires you to go and get background checks, doctor physicals, you gotta get a mental health screening, you gotta get a drug test, you have to sign a 40 plus page waiver. That's...
I don't know if I would
Really weird.
Because if you're planning on doing an extreme thing, obviously not to the extent that McKamey, but to where it's really going to terrify someone, you want to make sure that they're physically and mentally prepared to actually go through that and actually be terrified.
Yeah, but what really shows the red flag is the waiver.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go over that in a second. In order to be on the waiting list, you have to be 21 or older or 18 with a parent. And before you can do any of that, you have to join a Facebook group and I think friend Russ personally through Facebook.
Yes.
And then you're put on a wait list of 20 plus thousand to do the tour.
According to him.
Yeah. There's no real proof of that because people that want to go seem to get in pretty fast from what we understand and what we've seen. And this is where the waiver comes in. He basically has the waiver so that he can do pretty much whatever he wants to you and still kind of be in the legal ground, even if it's morally wrong. Like now it's he could pull your teeth, people have had broken bones, people have been cut, waterboarded, a whole lot of gross stuff going on in this place that doesn't make sense with it being a haunted house or extreme tour. It's considered now as a torture tour, if you will. And
yes, that's what a lot of the media at this point.
Yeah.
After all of the victims, or I guess, cuts going into it and coming out with broken bones, noses, so on and so forth.
I think his girlfriend once said that, or his ex-girlfriend, said that she got walking pneumonia from being waterboarded in freezing temperatures and freezing water by Russ.
Oh.
So, yeah. A lot can happen in this torture tour.
Right.
And you never really know what's going to happen because it's tailored to you. It's always different.
Usually if they say they're not going to do something, they're absolutely going to do that.
Yeah, they're going to fuck with you every which way they can. And the reasons for that are really fucking scary. It initially started in San Diego, but now it's in Summertown, Tennessee, and Huntsville, Alabama. And they moved out there in mid-2017, from what I could find. And when it started to get more extreme from 2010 to 2014, it started to be less... I want to go in to beat myself. It's more, I want to beat the manor. I want to overcome the manor. And there's apparently a $20,000 reward for the tour.
Which, it goes back and forth whether that's actually the case or not.
Yeah. It's speculated why it moved from San Diego to Summertown and Huntsville, but from what people have dug into, the main theory is that he left San Diego to dodge $250,000 in taxes owed to the city of San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really shitty to do, and it's been documented by several people that he pinches pennies and he fucks with money as much as he can to his best, I guess, his best interest. And even when it...
More than likely.
Yeah, and even when it apparently went to Tennessee at first, it wasn't even the same thing as it was in California. It wasn't a mirror image of it because Tennessee fought back on that. And it was basically like a front yard boot camp where they, like, he made you carry around heavy bags of stuff. And there was apparently one guy, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, that went through all of that, was still good to go, but Russ got tired, and then later on said the guy wasn't actually there wasn't a real tourist, wasn't a real victim. Which is, yeah.
Wish I could say I was shocked.
Yeah, I wish.
But after everything we've learned, not really.
Yeah. There's still there's a lot of controversy over this. A lot of people are really pissed about this torture tour, haunted house, quote unquote, to the point where there's over 150,000 signatures on a petition on what's that site called?
Change.org.
Yeah, there's a change.org thing out there that's got that many signatures for it to get shut down in Tennessee and Alabama. And for a short time, he did shut it down. But from looking at his Facebook page, he's still doing those tours. He started up again.
Lovely.
Yeah, I went and looked at it yesterday just to kind of find out exactly when it shut down, or when he said it was shutting down, and if it was still shut down. And there are pictures of people that he would use as profile pictures on his Facebook page of people finishing the tour or after the tour. And there's videos with those people still being posted on his Facebook page. So it's active still. It's still happening.
Right.
Which is unfortunate in every which way.
But people still choose to do it.
Yeah. And people are adrenaline junkies. They think they can beat the manor. Or they want the money.
Right. Which for some people, it's like they just want to get scared and want to have like a real scare.
Yeah.
Because for some people, like, the one victim who we'll get into, Gabby, she used to work at haunted houses. So she knows all the tricks. So going to a normal haunted house wasn't really going to wasn't going to give her because she already knows everything.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush isn't there.
Right. And so she went to go look for extreme haunted houses where they can touch you, they can chase you, they can technically get physical with you to a certain extent.
Yeah, they call that a boo haunt, right?
Technically, when in reference to McKamey Manor, yes, they do refer to those as. But she was kind of the last of the boo haunts by Russ's account. But according to her, she was the referred to them as. With everything that she went through during hers, because he specifically said to her that she was going to be a test run.
Yeah, she was a guinea pig
for her tour.
Yeah, yes. we've got proof of that too. I have no idea how many victims there are. There's probably dozens, maybe hundreds over the last couple decades that last decade they've been doing this.
Right.
Since it started to get go away from the family friendly thing, from the Halloween time haunted house to it's a year round thing where people come in a couple times a week and are spending hours at this place getting just fucked in every which way from Sunday. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is that apparently, from what Gabby said, and I can't confirm that with anything else because it doesn't seem like that this is the same way otherwise, but you're only given one out And that's within the first hour of the tour.
So that was actually for her specific tour.
Yeah.
Because this was prior to them getting really extreme, and in that case, they give you a safe word.
Yeah.
Now in current tours, you word or a safe phrase to which you say, and apparently it's supposed to end the tour. There's mixed reports on that. Some people say that Russ did stop the whole thing, and that they were praised after they said the phrase, and they were able to leave. And others have said that that wasn't the case, that Russ did not stop after they had said their phrase.
Yeah.
And he, due to the loophole in the
waiver. Yeah.
In the current waiver that's out on the internet, which says you have to experience serious physical trauma or mental trauma for Russ to let you leave.
Yeah.
So that could be the technical loophole reason as to why Russ does not always stop.
Exactly. What I've heard with that, I guess it's differing with, some people will say there's a safe word, some people will say there isn't at all. And what is universal, from what I understand, is that most of the people that go through that come out traumatized. Legitimately with PTSD traumatized. And that's freaky that people will see all this stuff on a YouTube channel because Russ records everything. All those hours that he spends with these people, he records and puts on YouTube. He also claims that it's being streamed to Vegas or some kind of event where people are voting on what they want done to the person that's taking the tour, or people.
Oh yeah, that was during Gabby's tour.
Yeah.
And he said that he was streaming to Vegas. I haven't heard that from other victim accounts that I've looked into. That's really the only account that I've heard that from. So I'm not sure if it's like a repeated thing.
It
or
was.
If it was something specifically. Was it?
It was, yeah. That was something that was big in Primink's video. And also what I noticed listening to some of the interviews of the people that were on the Surviving Life podcast. Yeah, that was corroborated several times, and that's it. But
that's interesting.
It's never been proven that that's actually what's happening. There's no proof anywhere that there's anybody involved besides Russ and the actors.
Right.
And I think one of the big things that people are debating is whether or not Russ is doing this as an entertainment thing for people, or he's just a psychopath using this to just full-blown torture people to his heart's delight.
Right. Honestly, I think it's a bit of a both. I mean, it's probably something that he enjoys, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that it isn't, with some of the ways that you hear him be involved in these tours firsthand. But then also, it's a way to get money out of that.
He doesn't get paid from that, though.
Right.
So, all he gets is dog food. And even in the Netflix episode that he was in, or that 15-minute episode of Dark Tours, he says, the only thing I get a month is $800 for my disability check from being a 20-year Navy veteran.
Okay.
So he doesn't get paid for any of this stuff. And he claims that it's not being fetishized or used as a fetish material to get money.
Right.
He makes nothing out of this besides the dog food.
So he just enjoys it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And that's, again, corroborated by his ex-wife, his ex-girlfriend. It's really sick when you listen to these interviews. And if if people are interested enough, we can go into that with Russ on a different episode, but there's just way too much of a rabbit hole to get into right now with that. Excuse me. So, why don't we get into the first person? Let me take a look and see if there's anything going on. Yeah, it is definitely a big nope, Remy. What have you got to go through in life to want to do this day in and day out and take people's money? Well, he doesn't take people's money, allegedly. So, I don't know. I think he just gets a sick high out of it, and a lot of other people corroborate that because he has mental illness. So, there's a lot of factors to that. It shows he's just got problems after problems. So, you want to introduce us to the first person? Or Gabby?
Absolutely. So, Gabby made a video on November 14th, 2019, and she was the first real extreme haunt of like this kind of torture-esque tour. From her haunt, it only proceeds to get worse. Although, according to Russ, as I said beforehand, still considers her haunt one of the boo haunts. And according to Gabby, she was in her haunt for up to 6 hours before Russ just suddenly ended the tour.
Yeah.
And he had recorded this whole 6-hour tour and sliced it down to a when posting her video.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
She receives a lot of criticism when she does come out about her haunt, because a lot of people don't consider her as one of the extreme haunts that Russ does. To where, in reality, according to Gabby, the 1.5 hour video that Russ...
You cut out again, hun.
Oh. Is the mild stuff that happened to her during that tour.
Yeah, and it's still pretty chilling.
Absolutely.
And she speculates that her whole video is out there somewhere, and I completely believe it. Because there's a guy we're going to be introduced to later. I believe his name is Anthony. And he runs a different extreme haunt that is, from what I'm hearing, actually an extreme haunt, not this torture tour thing.
Illegal.
Yeah, it's legal, and they're very, very careful with what they do. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this stuff up for you. This first picture is between Gabby and Russ. And like you said earlier, you have to get in contact with Russ through Facebook and join a Facebook group. And she got in contact with this guy by emailing him directly and saying she was trying to make a horror movie thing. So as you can see, horror movies and need some writing inspiration. So yeah, she wanted to live her own horror movie is how she put it. You need to contact me, the girl for tomorrow backed out. Send me your phone number if you want to take the tour tomorrow. I can't have my nieces tomorrow, obviously. And then or she's like, when's the next open spot? And he says, I don't know, it's 70,000 people on the list. Or on the 2 lists. So there's more than one, apparently. So he says...
Oh, I'm assuming one for Tennessee and then one for Alabama is my assumption what he means by the 2 lists.
No, because this was back in San Diego still. So this is... It hadn't been transferred yet.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So this is... I don't know what he means by 2 lists. Here's something that shows the dog food portion. What size dog bag should I bring? Whatever you want, anything is okay. Remember, a lot of things are not complete. Okay, so that's part of showing you that he's definitely starting to ramp some stuff up, and he's got something different in mind, looking back on it with what we know already.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she met him at like a park where some bleachers were, and here's a picture of that when she pulled up that day. So we got the exact day of it too, and around the same time that she, September 5th at 5:32 p.m. Pacific. So we have that definitive of when she was there.
Right.
And it just gets worse from there. So before she even did this thing, he was saying, she's asked, I guess apparently asking how long it would be. She says 90 minutes, which is not what it was from what we know now. And then this is where it gets really freaking creepy. I don't blame you, our little test subject.
Right, so this is where he makes it clear that this is going to be a completely new version.
Yeah.
When Gabby has seen videos, because up until this point, she had known about McKamey Manor because she found out about it from a news in 2014 about their boo haunts. And so she was not prepared for what she was about to go into.
Yeah. Up until this point, keep in mind that Russ and his attraction up until not too long after this was very well praised by the horror community. He was on numerous TV shows. He had numerous documentaries done. Elvira even praised him. Like, he was literally had a huge reputation with the community until he started doing this stuff, and it was found that he was doing this stuff. So for that stuff to come to the way it was and play out that way is very scary, and it shows you his character.
Right.
So here's one picture of Gabby in the haunt. This is one of the actors.
I think I specifically remember this story that she told.
Yeah,
this specific picture.
Yeah. I think you remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. She was getting choked out by an actor in this photo, obviously. And what she's laying on right there is one of those, like...
the ice cream, like the gas station ice cream containers that you slide the top back and forth on.
Right.
It's one of those.
I believe it was after this.
You're cutting out.
Where she proceeded to be put into that container, where she had maybe an in area, and the and proceed to push her down into it, bring her back up.
He was basically drowning her multiple times.
Yeah. He was ducking her multiple times before then shutting the lid on her.
Yeah.
Where she had to lean up to reach that little inch of air.
Yeah.
In the top area.
Yeah, that's fucking scary, in my opinion. And you can already tell, like, she's been in there a while. She's dirty, she's grimy looking. There's tape over her face because they blindfold you. It's like this whole humiliating process prior to going in there of them, not only going through that waiver for hours, just going over everything. You're blindfolded. You get these headphones on your head that has this weird hypnotic music to it. That they touch on in the Netflix episode. and he has you dress up in something really embarrassing. Like for her, it's a tutu. It was like a black tutu or a white tutu and black stockings.
Oh yeah, he asked them to dress in like Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
At least for Gabby's tour. And Gabby's tour didn't have the extremely long waiver. That didn't come until after her tour.
Exactly. Yeah. And now apparently they say onesies. You wear a onesie to this stuff. I don't know if it's changed since then, but that's what's shown in 2017 during the Netflix episode.
Okay. And so, prior to Gabby getting into where it kind of starts with the van.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't necessarily clarified that part.
Yeah, it was going back to where she was picked up at. You meet him at a place. You get out of your car. You go through this ritual, and then you're thrown into the back of a van or his truck and driven to the actual house. So it's kind of like a van house tour or combo.
Yeah, it's a mixture of the van and the house tour.
Yeah.
According to what Gabby was saying. This was prior to them being separate things.
Yes. And now apparently they torture you all the way to the actual house while you're in the van. So that's not something nice to think about either.
Right.
Yeah, Dark Tourist does do an episode of this, and I'm touching on that a little bit from what I'm seeing. We might show that at a later time, but it's... Yep, I've seen the movie as well. So, yeah, that movie, if you've got Amazon Prime, is on Amazon Prime for streaming for free. The Haunter's Art of the Scare. And the other parts on Netflix, obviously. That's, there's only one season that's at the tail end of episode 8 of Dark Tourist. So, she's taken to the house and told all this stuff about it being, she's gonna be filmed the whole time. She was obviously filmed the whole time. She was made to crawl through something to get into his garage, where he started telling her all this stuff about what he was gonna do to her and start the humiliation part of it. And she said that there are a multitude of things that happened. The first hour where she was told she had a chance to get out, at the end of that, and that's the only chance she had to get out, she was thrown in a deep freezer and had the door shut with a chain on it. And then told, you need to try to get out. So when she was in there for a whole hour, and whenever she tried to put her hand out, because there was just enough room for her to get her hand out to try to get the chain off, one of the actors would just slam the freezer door down on her hand, and she'd have to put it back in. She obviously didn't give up and continued. And a multitude of things happened while she was in there. She said her head was smashed into walls. She had a huge amount of blood on her. She has a fear of spiders, which he knew about, so he put tarantulas on her head. I think we have a picture of that. Yeah. This one is, she said that there's a multitude of things that were being put in her mouth. Obviously, a actor's putting his fingers in her mouth, which is gross. You don't know where those have been. I
believe he injured her cheek in that one instance, too.
Yeah, he did.
According to what she said.
Yeah. And, yeah, he put his fingers in her mouth and then ripped her head to the side. And he did, made her eat, her and her partner, because she was with somebody at the time that was going through this with her. They made her eat horrible food, and they said if she threw it up, she would be made to eat her vomit, which she says that didn't happen, because she didn't get sick, or she tried her best not to get sick. And what was even worse is that she was being pitted against her partner and her partner back to her by Russ. Like,
although
asking...
it primarily focused on
her. Yeah.
So it was, all the events were really focused on Gabby, because he had a strange inkling to Gabby.
Yeah. Like, he would basically ask the partner, which we never got a name for that, I don't think we ever will, ask the partner, do you want to get this done to you, or should it be done to her? And the partner would always say, do it to her. So anything that went through that, like, she said one instance was that she was doused in water and stuck tied to a chair in between two industrial fans turned on to max.
I can't imagine.
I can't either.
Freezing cold.
I can't either. She said the only way she could get through it was turning her brain off and just saying it's just a haunted house. It's just a haunted house.
Yeah,
because otherwise she would have
panicked. How she got through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Was just reminding herself that it was just a haunted house.
Yeah. And she said that it threw her off more because, unlike what we're hearing from other victims, where the actors are continually going after you for hours, she was kind of getting psychological warfare because they would stop during certain times. The one instance she brought up was after she finished eating the really gross food, Russ offered her pizza, and they actually got to eat a piece of pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Which completely makes you feel safe again. And then you're put back into the bullshit.
Right.
And at some point, she and I quote says, or to the best of her knowledge quotes, Russ says, well, it's getting late, so I think I'm going to end the tour here.
He just suddenly ended it.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. And then he throws her and her partner in the back of the van again and drops them back off at the park where they drove home. And I remember her saying that I was completely quiet the entire way home, and I was quiet. I didn't listen to any music when I got back to the house. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't listen to any music. I left the room completely dark. I just sat in silence the rest of the day.
I mean, after going through that haunted house, like, you have to be emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted.
Absolutely.
With everything that you go through, between getting harassed, made to face your worst fears, that sort of thing, that's exhausting, let alone for 6 hours on end. Not knowing when it's going to stop until Russ says so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty scary, pretty hellish if you think about it. I would never want to go through any of that. Because I know for a fact, if I had done something, obviously I'm not going to get through the psych evaluation, so I don't need to worry about it. But if I did, I know that my worst fears would get turned on me. Like, I've told you and some of our other friends before, I have a phobia of vomit. Of me vomiting, of somebody else vomiting, and they apparently do that too. Where they've had people throw up on you, they spit on you, they make you throw up, and I would lose my fucking mind. I wouldn't be able to get through that. There's no way. No way in hell.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah. Nope. I already have enough bullshit that I gotta deal with on a daily basis. I'm not about to do that otherwise.
Right.
Yeah. And, it gets worse for her from there, and I feel really bad for her. Because you really start to see how manipulative this guy is.
Yeah, because he took a really big liking to Gabby from the start.
Yeah. So, she stuck around for a while. I think she said she stopped talking to him in, like, 2018? Or stopped being a part of everything in that time period?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty recently. Or at least pretty recently in the time frame that she had done the video. I think
Yeah.
it had been about a year or so since she
Yeah.
had talked to Russ. In about 5 years after her actual tour.
She was able to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think after she did the 2 parts of talking about it, she went and watched her video back.
Yes.
We didn't watch that, but I could only imagine what she was going through.
Yeah, because she doesn't even remember a large portion of the actual tour, because one part she was blindfolded for some of it, in another part she just turned off her brain. She tried not to really remember.
Yeah. And after this, it only got worse. This was tame. This was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And after that, it just got worse. Everything that happened to her was amplified.
Yeah.
It's really bad. But what the problem is that some of the people that go through this tour end up being some kind of a cult follower afterwards. In her case, she was for a while because he made her an admin.
Yeah.
Of the Facebook group.
Yeah, he really pulled her into his inner circle.
Yeah.
And by being in his inner circle,
that what?
Is that you have to fight for us.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody who is talking badly about Russ or his tours, he will message you, he will blow up your phone, he will do anything and everything he can to convince you to go fight his fight.
Fight the haters, yeah. He calls them quote-unquote haters, is what he does.
Right. And...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
You can see the dichotomy, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think she said that, in contrast with her who stuck around, the person that she went through with it just ghosted. Had nothing to do with McKamey Manor afterwards. So you can see the 2 different sides of what can happen when you come out of it.
And she mentioned in her interview that her partner was a bit older. Yeah. So while she was, I believe, 18 at the time, because this was before they had the 21 only
with a parent. Yeah.
Or with the parent, because at this time you could still be 18 without parent permission and go into this haunt.
Yeah.
And so she was still like very naive. She would reflect on it and she thought that it was a great experience. She got what she asked, that sort of thing, to where her partner more than likely realized this was fucked up. What we went through wasn't okay, and I'm going to remove myself from this.
Yeah. So basically when the people that end up going into this cult are told to go after anybody and everybody that tries to take them down. And in her case, she said that she get numerous emails, PMs, texts from him saying, delete negative comments from the YouTube videos, delete any posts that are negative towards him in the community, block them on your personal accounts on Facebook. And if they didn't respond, her phone would just get blown up. And if you talked badly about the manor, he might actually go after you like he does in this case. He says, here's a joke of an update. Remember yesterday that loon named Joey S., who claimed he took the tour in San Diego, then he went to the rejects page to try and look like a tough guy, basically turned on him and went to the other side of, I guess you could say, the online warfare of the people who are with Russ and the people who are trying to shut Russ down.
Right.
Here is a message the license he just sent me. Lol. Of course I offered him a chance to do an interview so we could show the world that or McKamey Manor is all about. Lol. Anyway, I thought you would get a kick out of this. Little Joey wrote the following. Just so you know, I have infiltrated your cult organization and will be going after all your cult followers with their employment and families to expose the truth into this. So you see in there him pandering to his audience while also showing and demonizing anybody who is against what he's doing.
Of course, you don't even have to be fully against Rust for him to come after you.
Yeah.
Because there was one case to where a girl couldn't show up for her tour. And so he automatically assumed that she was part of the hate mob and that she was faking wanting to even go on the tour.
Yeah.
So he started harassing her.
Yeah.
It got to a point. Yeah, it got to a point where he got his followers to harass this girl just for dipping out on a tour, and her friend had to say, my friend was in a car accident. That's why she was unable to show up to your tour.
Yeah, to reiterate, because you cut out a little bit.
Oh.
He basically harassed her to the point where her friend had to step in and say, hey, my friend was in a fucking car accident, back off. She didn't just dip out. And even then, he still went after her. From what Gabby was saying.
Yeah. He didn't really believe the fact that she was in a car crash and just happened to be on the day that she was supposed to have her tour.
Here's another one of them going after people. Can somebody do me a favor, please? I'm looking for a bunch of screenshots from all the idiot LIC individuals. I don't know what that means exactly. I'm guessing it's the haters squad or whatever he calls it, who claim that there's not really a McKamey Manor and that it's nothing but a front yard. I need as many of those as possible. A whole bunch of people have made that statement. All the fine, intelligent folks who think they know what the manor really is, lol. You will all know the usual suspects, the Franks, Trents, Beckys, Joshes, Dans, just to name a few. You know, the real smart individuals, lol. Also, anyone in the various hate groups would have access, and that's where it cuts off. So he's going after people again.
Yeah. He relentlessly attacks people.
Yeah.
It gets to the point to where, like in this screenshot here, he makes threats with a time frame.
Yeah. And I think she said that this was in reference to somebody who didn't show up. I could be wrong, but I think that's what the situation was.
Maybe. I don't remember specifically for this post.
Regardless, it's him throwing a temper tantrum again. Enough of this disrespectful nonsense. The name is blacked out. You have 30 minutes. I know you're seeing these posts. I'm not a happy camper. Throwing a temper tantrum. And I think this is exactly the text that we're talking about, where he's harassing somebody for not showing up.
Where now, this is after her friend had already messaged Russ.
Yeah.
Clarifying the situation.
Yeah. Now I feel bad. Someone is saying they're her roommate and she was in an accident this morning. She didn't have any details, and it's strange why both her numbers are disconnected and both Facebook pages gone. Now I feel really bad if what she is saying is true. Not sure how I can check into this. And I'm assuming this is Gabby. Yeah, that's just too sketchy. Like, both of the Facebook and both of the numbers. Is she, like, in the hospital, or do you know if she's supposed to be? You can find out where and call. I asked the friend, but she said she's at work and didn't have details. I also checked her friend's Facebook to see if she was listed as one of her friends. She's not. But she says there's a picture of her on her page. And obviously, they don't believe the whole situation.
Yeah, they're not believing it at all, which... And at this point, Gabby's still one of his moderators. She's still very much under his thumb in this whole scenario. So... there isn't much to be mad at on her part because she's trying to be a bit rational, but also still not getting on Russ's bad side.
Yeah. Oh, there's the tarantula picture of her having the spider on her face.
Right.
Which is pretty scary. And she said that it's because of her video that she put up after the tour, giving it all this praise on this situation. that people started really coming into it. He was trying to like pimp her out to different radio stations to do interviews just to boost his PR and stuff. And this looks like it's more talking about the people that are on the other side and just going after them. She was in different group chats throughout the time she was there. There's one with Carol when Carol was still in the picture before she divorced him. Can I just suggest we stick to the guidelines we did before? No profiles that are under a year old. Check person's profile picture. You can roughly tell if it's real or not. And no stupid profile pictures. Check person's profile, little or no activity. Don't admit. And cross-reference any names with the anti-MM pages. We need to be on the same him page. I don't know what that means. As each other, guys. So any probs, discuss your issues about possible names and profiles with each other. Thanks, guys. This was
the moderator group chat.
Yeah, because they're trying to screen out anybody that could possibly fuck with their group or infiltrate them. Yeah, and more of it where the hive mind is shown. Again, Carol's in there too. Hi guys, just a reminder, be very careful about who you let into the group. Have to check, as you guys do, which profiles are fake. One got in yesterday with nude shots, etc. that was clearly a set up fake. So please be selective on who you let in. Thanks, everyone. More with the admins. I think this was around the time when she said she was starting to get out because she was tired of the drama. And she was starting to see how bad it was getting. And even this, it corroborates
something new every day.
Yeah, like it even says that in here. What should I tell the members? They're asking about just that there's too much drama. Just the beginning was drama. I must have missed a lot today. Lol. Only admins can start new posts. I don't want anything more on this page. So this is corroborating there's always a lot of drama. It never stops.
And this is, I believe that was the picture from Marissa.
Let's see what the chat's saying. Welcome, T-Bell. Yeah, some praise it and actually mean it. We're going to get into somebody who still kind of praises it, but really suggests that you don't go.
She has her own reasons for thinking that it's not everybody's made to go in there, but she still reflects positively on her experiences going there.
From what I understand, that Carol was his wife before they broke up and he left to go to Tennessee.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. It's Holly that
an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, Holly's the one that's the ex-girlfriend that ended up going with him to Tennessee and then left him and is speaking out against him now. So
I believe it was actually after one of the tours. I can't remember which victim it was. After one of those tours that made her break up with Russ because of what she saw.
Yeah. And she says a lot of stuff.
Other accusations against Russ.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't think we're going to touch on.
No, we're not going to get into that. That's something for a whole other episode. And every account that I've looked into Carol, they were married.
Yeah, I believe so.
I haven't seen anything that says otherwise when I did my research.
I'd have to say the same here. I usually see the ex-girlfriend being used to refer to Hall.
Oh, he doesn't. What kind of person is he even outside of work? Oh, he's a psychopath. Gabby touched on after her tour was over, he was giggling like a school kid, asking about or saying how fun it was and doing an exit interview with her on camera still. So it's interesting. It's really interesting.
He enjoys what he does.
Yeah. Way too much.
Especially as you get into the more extreme ones as time goes on.
Yeah. And the next person we're going to talk about is one of the people that actively promotes and says good things about, not necessarily promotes, but says good things about McKamey Manor. Even though she does say, don't go do this, and she doesn't want people to really do this at all. And her name is Marissa Phillips. She is apparently a favorite of Russ's because she's been on 4 tours. 2 in Tennessee and 2 in San Diego.
One she was specifically requested to be on.
Yes. And I think she was the first person that was in the Hauntin' the Tennessee.
Yes, that was for the music video tour.
Which it was a music video tour.
Wanted her for.
Yeah, they specifically asked for her, and she agreed. I think these pictures are after maybe her second San Diego tour.
Possibly.
Let me. If you've got the video, if you could find it, I'll throw our Discord link in there. And if you do find that shows definitively that yeah, they weren't married, that would be awesome. Because I haven't seen anything otherwise that even his daughter did a interview and said that they were married. So I'm not totally sure what exactly the deal is about that. But there's the Discord link if you guys want to join into that. But like we said, this is somebody that has done multiple tours, whereas Gabby only did 1 and didn't do any after that. Mm-hmm. She was heavily referenced in the documentary from San Diego State University. So yeah, this wasn't San Diego. This was like the second one in San Diego. Which Russ didn't like at all because he had no control over it. He couldn't control the narrative.
Right.
And she says that she wanted to prove to herself that she could do it. Every time she went there, she was trying to prove herself or something.
Yeah, I believe in the actual documentary, she says she wants to prove that she can be an adult. That's the reason that she gives in the documentary, but she further explains that in her own video, reflecting on it.
This is just one picture of the bruise. There's another bruise that she took a picture of. It's pretty insane, if I do say so. Like, just how big that is and how the coloration, it just bothers me to no end. So she does these first set of clips are from her doing a follow-up interview after the second time she went to the San Diego tour, because she said also in this that she was too out of it when they did the exit interview that he does with everybody that goes through it. So we're gonna listen to what she says and pause it obviously throughout for copyright purposes. But this is the first thing she says.
I was pretty incoherent going back and watching the video. I was a little too incoherent for a decent exit interview. So now I'm back home. Ladies, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the comment like, oh, I'm down for this. I'd totally do the tour as long as they don't touch my hair. They're going to touch your hair. And if they tell you they aren't going to touch your hair, then they're definitely going to touch your hair.
Like we said earlier, if they say they're not going to do something, they're going to do it. Right. And the hair example, her entire head is shaved. That's further proof that they're going to fuck with you and they're going to find what bothers you the most and do it. No matter what.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to be looking like dang G.I. Jane up in here, don't do this, dummy. Don't do this. This is insane. This is absolute craziness. They just got in my head so bad and on a whole different level. I was really, I don't want to say surprised, but in awe, I guess, of how they got in my head and really messed with me.
That last part just chills me to the bone with her saying, you know, I was really shocked with how they got into my head and fucked with me that way. And
that's the whole purpose of this tour. It's tailored to you to make sure that it fucks with you specifically.
Yeah. And I think I remember her saying her head got shaved and her hair was shoved in her mouth during the tour.
Yeah.
And you could also see what we were saying, that while she says that the experience was positive for her, she doesn't want people to do it just out of a whim. They have to completely understand what they're getting themselves into. And that's what people most of the time don't do. Here's another one from the same video. Again, if you want to see all this stuff, it's on her YouTube channel. I have it linked in the description if you want to go look at the entire thing for this. Everything we're showing, you can get the whole entire thing for in the description, and I've put in exactly which video is which link. So you can go back for that. But we just want these particular parts.
You know, my big thing was needles. They got me real good with those. Real scary. Really scary. I tried to fight back. I tried to run away. But there's a whole mob of those actors, and I don't think you can get away from them. I don't think you want to try either. They made me regret me trying to run away.
Didn't Gabby say that they couldn't do anything with needles or drugs in hers?
That wasn't in the, at least for her tour, that was not a part of it.
Yeah.
They couldn't drug her, they couldn't do anything, which they didn't necessarily drug Marissa, from what I remember. I know that, I believe in the video that we watched, it was Chloe who said that Russ apparently injected Marissa with something. I'm not completely sure about that. And then I believe they also used needles to inject something in her mouth. That's what it was.
I know there's definitely somebody that says they were given something or forced to drink something and they blacked out. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but there's another interview that's done in the series that Surviving Life does.
I don't doubt it. I'm sure it's added on in the waiver as time went on, but
probably.
For Gabby,
it wasn't. Like, it just
online.
It just shows how much more increasingly intense it got over time.
Yeah.
The next one.
I would love to be able to actually talk some of you people out of doing this, because this is crazy. This is really crazy. If you haven't done this before and you have any qualms about, getting your hair cut or having people get real personal, don't do this. Just don't do this. You don't know what you're walking into here.
Don't do this. Just don't do this. She said multiple times she doesn't want people doing this. She really doesn't. And she says flat out it's fucked up. But for some reason she does it 2 more times after this. It's explained, but I mean, a normal person's just like, what the fuck? Why?
Right.
It's nasty. Really nasty. A lot of things I ate, I'm not sure if humans are supposed to eat those. I mean, I guess I'm okay now. But, I guess I'm okay now.
This is purely my opinion about this last part, but the last few seconds where she says, I don't think a human is supposed to eat that, but I'm okay, I guess. And then she kind of looks down and looks around and says, I'm okay, I guess. That comes off to me, body language wise, as doubt, where she's kind of questioning why she would go through with this and why this would happen at all.
Right.
It's justifying it. And that, again, that's just my opinion from my experience. It bothers me a lot. So that's the last of that particular video, but this is from the Surviving Life YouTube channel. They do an entire series on this called Unmasking McKamey, and they've had so many people that I've seen already. They've had Holly on there multiple times. They've had another guy that's going to pop up on multiple times. It's just a level of ridiculousness that gets so deep. And
it's like the Chris Hansen streams, but better.
Yes.
He's not a scumbag.
Exactly. This guy actually cares. Like, he literally gives a shit. He's kind of goofy, but it's entertaining and scary at the same time to watch. So if you want to see this full interview, the link is in the description. It's called Unmasking McKamey Manor. It's so worth, all of it's worth the time, because you get so much more in-depth knowledge on what happens. And a lot of the stuff that I'm pulling is from this particular series. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. I think this is her. I think she's done all 4 of them at this point. I'm not sure, because this was November last year. I don't know if she did anything. I guess this was after the last one, because of the timeline wise with the videos.
Yeah.
So she was pulled onto this. This is, I think, one of the later episodes of the series, but let's go ahead and go through that.
Seems like everybody is kind of coming forward and sharing their trauma, and the idea that maybe at the end of this we can all leave better and like just let go of some of that. I really hope that happens. And so I do want to mention, I'm not going to say anybody's names, but a lot of people, it's not just Russ who has hurt people. It's not just Russ who has caused all of it. We've all been a part of the mob and part of the lies.
We've all been a part of the mob. We've all been a part of the lies. There's multiple people that are causing pain. The video that this came from, where we kind of were introduced more to her, her as in Marissa. I remember, what was the name of the YouTuber?
Loey Lane.
Loey Lane, yeah. She goes over this a little bit, and she says that in the SDSU documentary, they talked to some of the actors. Ooh. And we're not totally sure if all of the actors are just like Russ or not. A lot of them are, there's a good chunk of them that are against him at this point, but there are 2 in particular that were brought up that bothered me. Yeah. There was one, or there's 3 actually, there's 3 of them. One I didn't get a name, we didn't get a name for, that apparently said they doing it because they love inflicting pain.
Yep.
The fuck?
Yep.
Another one,
somehow the least terrifying one out of
the
3
3.
of them.
Yeah. The second,
Mr. Gray.
There. Yep, Mr. Gray.
To where the documentary interviewers ask him, like, didn't they ask?
He says openly that he's a convicted felon.
Right, and they asked him what he got charged for. He straight up says murder.
Yeah.
Casually, as one does. And then when they're obviously scared, he pulls back and he's like, I'm just joking. It was robbery.
Yeah.
So
that
terrifying. And then the very last one is she's something.
I think it was like Little Doll or Little Girl or something like that.
Little Sister.
Little Sister, there you go.
She's probably the actor that terrifies me the most. because
Yeah.
she's the one who likes cutting people's hair and ripping their nails out of their nail bed.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Like, oh my god. She loves pulling nails, is what she says. She loves pulling nails off of the fucking fingers and cutting hair.
Yeah. And
I
like,
wouldn't be
that's-
surprised if she liked pulling out teeth too, because they do that.
That's
They will get
also something that they do.
They will get a wrench, one of the dirtiest, grossest looking wrenches possible, stick it in your mouth and pull your fucking teeth out. I can't process that. I can't process that.
Like, I can't imagine actually like going through that. No, because they have I even say they have permission to rip one of your teeth out without Novocaine.
Yep.
So like is specifically labeled in there that is a possibility. You're not going into this completely unknowing of what could happen, because they pretty much list every single possibility. But it's kind of like when you're going on a roller coaster or like when you have to sign a waiver for something and they're like, hey, death is possible. You don't know that it's gonna happen, but it's like a possibility. Worst comes to worst. And it's like, no. In the best case scenario for the McKamey Manor, that's what they're looking forward to.
The best case scenario was what? You cut out again.
The best case scenario for the McKamey Manor is getting to rip your teeth out.
Yes.
Or rip your nails out of your nail bed. Or just any other horrible possibility that they can think of making you do, like eating really, really gross things.
Yeah. I remember it, and this is in the Netflix documentary as well, which was done at the time that was recorded, Holly was still with him.
Yeah.
And she's still in... I don't know exactly about her retracting whatever she said, because there is another interview that she did with Ron, which is the guy that does Surviving Life YouTube, where she retracts her statement. But I haven't seen that one yet, so I don't know exactly what the deal with that is. And she says even though she claims that she's saying it and she's faking it, she said something along the lines of these people that come here are trying to get as close to, oh my god, I'm gonna die as possible, without actually dying. They're chasing that high, specifically.
I mean, I see that when you recount, like, specifically maybe Gabby's story. Her whole reason to go in there was to experience her own horror movie. So yeah, are looking for that rush of, oh my god, I might die.
Yeah.
When
or I'm about to die.
With that mindset.
Yeah. It's really freaky. To your comment, TiVo, I'm not sure if necessarily if actors are interviewed yet. I haven't gotten too far in the series, but he does interview somebody who does another, I guess, extreme haunt that is definitely not to this extent. It's very, very much kept to a good standard. And he helped helped Russ with McKamey Manor when it first went to Tennessee, because he lived down the road from there. I don't remember what the name of that company is, but I think he brings it up when we get to that clip. But yeah, he was there and heard a lot of stories, and there's a lot of stuff that came out that he brings up in this series that just I can't fucking believe. I believe it, but it's baffling. I'm going to finish this one up to get to the next one.
Being said,
Absolutely.
I told you I pretty much signed up for the tour and sent an email through the website before I even knew about the Facebook group. I was directed to join the Facebook group, and pretty much immediately you get mobbed, you get harassed online by a whole bunch of people. I just kind of accepted it as a part of the tour. The unfortunate thing is that doesn't seem to ever end after the tour. I'm not particularly mad about all of that. That's just kind of part of the experience, I think. Again, the problem I kind of have with it in retrospect is it never stop. Like, when's my tour over?
Yeah, Cadus Silvas. That's what I'm talking about. I'm referring to. I think the guy's name is Anthony Silvas, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But he does touch on her a couple of times. And that last part of when does my tour end bothers me. Really bothers me. I'm glad that they are good people, T-Bell. I'm glad to hear that. That's what I came off to me looking at this stuff and listening to him talk about the situation. You're going to see that in some of the clips here. So let's go on ahead to the next one. Here he is right here. And this is a little bit of a long one, so I'm going to be stopping probably every 20 to 30 seconds to keep within copyright. So bear with us.
Well, the big things that I saw and have direct knowledge of were what he tried to get us to do to Marissa Phillips. Because we didn't know exactly what was going on until I came around the corner and saw it. And I put an end to it immediately. Him and another guy had her in a 55-gallon barrel of ice water and cooking oil, and there was some other stuff in it that was harmless but smells like 1,000 skunk.
So I think he touches on this several times within different clips, and definitely within the interviews that he's been on. I think he's been on multiple of them from what I've seen.
Right.
And so what he says in the full interview is that when he and Russ, or their companies, were together, they kind of did tag team stuff where they switched off. And this was one of the times when they switched off and he was coming back to do another switch, and he sees this going on. And it's for the stupidest of reason. It's the entire story is so scary. You're only getting the tip of the iceberg with this particular set of clips.
Yeah, it's completely delusional.
Absolutely delusional.
Happens.
Oh god, yeah.
Skunks died in your septic tank. It's pretty awful. But they were holding her physically. I mean, this was a 300-pound man holding tiny Marissa Phillips down in this water. Her lips were turning blue, and they were interrogating her about all the claims Russ had made about his ex-actors and Carol stealing from him, when in fact that wasn't even true to begin with, that nobody stole anything from him.
The delusion that has been brought up in multiple interviews is that, and even from Holly herself has said, that Russ he's so paranoid about people being against him that he will even interrogate her. He will interrogate people that have been close to him because he's so scared about people robbing him or people knowing things about him that could get him in a lot of deep water. And her lips were blue. Her lips were blue. Like, the fuck?
Comes a point where it's not some extreme haunt.
No, it's not a haunt anymore.
Yeah. And he's asking her, she doesn't have answers. She doesn't know what the fuck is happening. She is so mentally gone at this point that, she's whatever he wants to hear.
Yeah, she's about to say that.
He is still going.
She's about to say that in this clip, so let's go ahead and play that.
He was questioning me. I was being put in a position where I had to defend people I didn't even know, or I was accused of colluding with people I didn't even know. I think Russ would have pushed that as far as he could to get the answers he wanted. And interrogation work, I did confess to things. I believe I did. I believe I confessed to things that weren't true, just to make it stop.
He had a camera in her face the whole time. The girls.
He touches on it again, or she even corroborates it. And I remember she brings up interrogation, and I remember in the Netflix series that Russ says specifically that he uses interrogation and hypnosis, which is something he learned while he was in the military in his 20 plus years. So he's very familiar with how to do that stuff. And it's very apparent at this point. And it seems to be to a point of he enjoys it. Which is... That's my opinion. We don't know for sure. I don't know the guy personally. But that's how it comes off to me with all the stuff that I've seen and I've heard. Allegedly, he's a psychopath, and allegedly he gets a kick out of this.
Lips were turning blue. And she couldn't get out. She had a 300-pound man holding her down. And that's what I put a stop to.
In your opinion, like, how long do you think Russ would have continued that? If you hadn't...
As long as it took to get her to say whatever he wanted her to say. She was turning blue. I mean, that doesn't happen immediately. But when I got a look at her, and the look on her face, and the tone of her skin, it told me she was in direct physical danger.
And it looks like Chris and T-Bell have corroborated that this guy's somebody reputable you can trust that's telling you the truth. Mm-hmm. And you could see it on his face. You can see it in his body language. He's getting mad. He's getting pissed off just thinking about it. And he knew that this guy was fucking insane. That he could have killed this girl. And what frightens me is that she doesn't think the same thing. And the last part of this clip is her saying aloud that she doesn't believe that. But in my opinion, I don't think she actually does believe that. I don't think she actually does. I think it's another justification. And again, that's just opinion. So let's finish this one off.
Like something really bad would have within the next few minutes.
I don't think Russ would have let anything. I don't think he would have let it go that far. I'm thankful somebody stepped in.
I don't know if you agree with me after seeing that, though, but when you stutter like that and you're looking down, it's almost as if you're trying, and I'm not saying this is what she's doing, this is my opinion from what I'm seeing. She's denying, or she's in a state of denial where she's saying, he wouldn't have done this to me, to kind of make the blow less difficult to take. So she doesn't have to think about it as, this guy could have killed me, and he wouldn't have cared. She doesn't want to believe that. And I can understand that completely. Being somebody who suffers from mental illness myself, you don't, when you're a victim, you are in that kind of state of denial. I don't know if you agree with me, Jada, but that's literally how I took looking at that.
I'm personally, I'm not sure. Is that there's always going to be that sense of unsure because you
what?
In. Because you don't know what would have happened if he didn't step in, because it didn't get to that point.
Yeah.
So I think Marissa's always going to be unsure of whether that's the case or not, unless something happens to her. It's similar to the situation where she went through and Russ took it too far. I think that would be the only thing that would probably change that perspective.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And the last clip we have, I think it's the last clip, if I'm not mistaken, is it touches on or elaborates on what you said earlier, where she does these things to test herself, to conquer something.
Right.
And
everybody has a goal going into this.
Yeah.
Whether it's a personal one or just an experience that they want to have.
Yeah.
It's different for every person who goes into it. So it's kind of hard to put them all in this one box and saying this is why they do it.
Yeah. And here's what really bothers me about this one, and it makes me believe from everything I've seen and from experience, again, my opinion, completely alleged, because I don't know the guy again, but it makes me believe that he personally picks people he knows he can get a high of torturing, or he knows he can get something specific out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And in her case, she's mentally ill. She has an eating disorder, which is technically still a mental disorder.
But what I will say is technically, Russ, he was not aware of this. It was not on any of her doctor's notes. It was not on her psychiatrist's note. She, obviously, with the way that anorexia or other eating disorders go, it's very deceiving of a disorder.
But she does say that she'd told him at some point, so he knew, even if it wasn't on a report or a doctor's note.
Maybe I don't specifically remember that.
She says it in this, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it, and
yeah,
this is her saying that she went into one of the haunts. I don't know which one. It's probably one of the ones in Tennessee, where she went in to try and conquer her eating disorder.
I have a pretty severe eating disorder. When you starve for long enough, you kind of do get like an adrenaline high. And so I had this stupid idea that, I'd get that anorexia high before I went into the tour and I'd be able to just kill it. Just, I'm not sure how to explain that mindset, but Russ asked me to give a doctor's note. I did provide one 2 different times for him, so he had an updated one. But
I want to touch on something really quick with that bothers me, that also came out about this situation, and this makes me kind of think that it was the first one she did when she went to. It makes me think, I'm not totally sure, but this is kind of where the dots are connecting for me, but in the same podcast, because this is both on the same stream, the same exact one before the other,
right?
And Anthony came in on another stream, which was one of the first ones that Holly jumped on, and he said that he found out later, because he didn't know until a couple of years after what actually happened. He, until that point, thought that nothing severe had happened, because they discussed they weren't going to do that, and he was not okay with that. But he later, once he found the tape, the full tape of it, he found out the amount of shit that they did to her. And that part about signing multiple waivers and bringing multiple documents, he corroborates. He says that during that one Tennessee haunt, she'd signed 3 different waivers, so that when she tapped out, she signed another waiver to go back in and do it again.
Okay.
So it's like back to back to back.
Right.
Where literally, like, he would fuck with her, but he didn't. I could tell by the way he describes it that he isn't intending. There's no way you're gonna get killed. There's no way. Whereas with Russ, you don't know. It's a red flag for me. But he says that he found out during that tour, and as she would tap out, and the first time she tapped out was to him, because he threatened to set her on fire, which he wasn't going to do.
Right.
At least I think that's what it was. I know it had to do with fire, setting something on fire. And she immediately tapped out. And they took her out of it, and then she went right back in. So it was like three different tours at the same date, back to back to back, and it just got worse. So that's where that bothers me, and that's why I think it's that particular haunt or tour that she's referring to for this specific instance. I'm gonna finish off the clip.
It's common it's very deceptive disorder, so that never showed up on my doctor's note. And Russ would have known.
Yeah, it wasn't because somebody.
I can't hold that about it before.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of told Russ about it before, but that's on me. So if you went off the medical note, he wouldn't have known. But she had mentioned it to him in some way where he could have figured that out. Now, I don't know what he did that had to do with that. And that breaks my heart it breaks my heart, and it terrifies me thinking about what he could have done to her. But you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. So, overall, I mean, in my opinion, I think Russ is absolutely a psychopath. Absolutely. In my opinion. I can't prove it without a shadow of a doubt because there's arguments one way or the other.
Right.
But in my personal opinion, I think he's an absolute psychopath that gets off on this stuff. And that's mostly from the stuff that we didn't show today that I've seen and heard.
I think he's severely fucked up in the least case.
Yes. He is. Oh, yeah. They interviewed his daughter, who hadn't seen him since she was 13, but she said flat out that he's been diagnosed with multiple mental disorders. And it seems to only have gotten worse since she left when she was 13.
I don't doubt it.
So...
Especially with this stuff.
Yeah.
No.
The farthest I will go, and the last thing I'll say when it comes to those interviews, and because I really want people to see these and look at these, or if you really want something in-depth, we can do something specifically on Russ himself. But I really want you guys, if you are really interested in seeing more and hearing more detail about this stuff, please go look at the Surviving Life series Unmasking McKinley Manor, or McKamey Manor, because it's so in-depth. There's hours upon hours of this stuff. And the last thing that I was listening to was the interview with his daughter, and he hasn't seen for almost a decade. She hasn't seen him for almost a decade. She said that when she was leaving him, he literally almost committed suicide in front of her to try and get her to stay. And he'd done that before, and it was corroborated by Carol and her mother, because Carol's not her mom. Carol was her stepmom until she was 13. At least by her account. And she didn't realize until she talked to her mother and Carol about this stuff that it really set in how fucked up her dad is. And that's literally the last I'll say about it, because again, I want you guys to go look at this. It's... I don't have words. I don't have words for the level of depraved this guy is. I don't. I can't give you from what I've seen. And I know you've seen quite a bit too, Jada, but
yeah.
When you dive a little bit deeper, it's...
I've mostly looked into the Manor itself, not necessarily Russ.
Yeah. I went deep dive into it after we found out about this podcast or stream, whatever you want to call it. I was interested in seeing what the people who knew him would say.
Right.
And I'm tearing up a little because it's terrifying. It's terrifying hearing the stuff other people will say.
Right.
So, I mean, it's also kind of cool that we have a couple people that know about this personally, kind of putting their input in here, and corroborating some of the stuff that we've discovered or what I've found. So that's it's not something we were expecting. Definitely not expecting that, but that's good to have. So thank you, T-Bell, and thank you, Chris Smith, for popping in and giving your take on this and corroborating some of the stuff that we've discussed. What is your final opinion after this, Jada?
Honestly, I think at the end of the day, it's a very fascinating case. Especially because it's not just one fucked up individual being the ringleader of this. There's more fucked up individuals involved. Especially when you start looking into the actors and their parts in all of this. And then also looking into Rush himself.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the victims and the flack that they get. Because a lot of people will give them shit saying that you knew what you signed up for. And to some extent, you can say that. But at the same time, there's a difference between reading it a page and saying, yes, I agree that those are possibilities of things that are going to happen to me, and actually living through that and living repercussions of that afterwards.
Yeah. I completely agree with a lot of what you're saying, and if we do decide to do a deep dive, I definitely would like to pick the brain of our two, I guess you could say, specialists or experts in this field, this particular area of McKamey Manor. I would love to talk to you guys about that if we do decide, and if anybody is or at least our audience is interested in hearing about that stuff. We will later down the road go ahead and do an entire show on Russ, or shows depending on how deep we go in the rabbit hole. Because I have no doubt there's a whole lot to go through. But thank you again for coming in, and we appreciate you being here. But I think at this point, I don't have anything else to say that I haven't said already. So is that pretty much everything you've got right now, Jada?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So there's our introduction and kind of a history on McKamey Manor. We're going to go ahead and shut down for the night. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. We are going to cover Ed Gein in our next week episode, because it's been highly suggested and asked for by multiple of our audience members. So we're going to go ahead and do that next week. So we will see you next Tuesday, same time, and sweet nightmares.